What's going on, everybody? Cleepus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the BLU F92e 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. Now, as always, if you do end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the BLU F92e 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch IPS LCD display with the 720p resolution, a PPI of 270, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. With the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 390, and a 19.5:9 aspect ratio. So as far as the size and dimensions go, they are pretty similar. The A34 5G is a tiny bit larger at 6.6 inches versus 6.5 with the BLU. And on the other hand, the BLU F92e 5G has a slightly taller and more narrow form factor at 20:9 versus 19.5:9, but at the end of the day, it's really pretty similar. But the real difference here is the image quality. On one hand, the BLU F92e 5G is okay. Despite only having a 720p resolution, it does look at least decent. The colors look pretty good too. And if you're doing stuff like more basic activities, web browsing, social media, stuff like that, and then even watching the occasional video every now and then, the display we're getting here is going to be completely fine. But on the other hand, with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, the Super AMOLED makes everything look quite a bit more premium. The colors and brightness are quite a bit better. The viewing angles are also significantly better, so if you're outside in the sun, for example, the A34 5G is going to be quite a bit easier to see. And then of course, with a 1080p resolution, the image is a lot sharper. So if you're doing stuff like watching videos, for example, where the image quality is a bit more important, I would definitely go with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. And then finally, with the A34 5G, with the 120Hz refresh rate versus 60 with the BLU F92e 5G. With the A34 5G, the movement on the screen is a bit faster and smoother, making the phone feel quite a bit more premium. Now for storage, both phones are getting 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so no matter which one you get, you will be getting plenty of storage. Sure, if you're really a power user, if you have like 100 apps or something, then you might want to go with something that has 256, but for most people, 128 is really going to be plenty. For security features, both phones have Face Unlock, and they both have fingerprint scanners. With the BLU F92e 5G, it's right here on the power key, and with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, we have it here in the display. But starting with the BLU F92e 5G, let's go ahead and give them a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see there, both fingerprint scanners worked real well, no issues at all. The only real difference is, I would say with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, it does look quite a bit more premium, whereas with the BLU F92e 5G, being on the power key, the fingerprint scanners may be a bit more practical, but at the end of the day, it's really up to personal preference. And then again, remember, both phones also have Face Unlock, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now for the camera setups here, with the BLU F92e 5G, we got a 13 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 0.3 megapixel depth sensing camera with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. Up front, this phone also has a 13 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So in general, when it comes to features, both phones are pretty good, but the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G does have an advantage since it does actually have an ultra wide camera, whereas with the BLU F92e 5G, technically this phone is supposed to have an ultra wide camera, but I can't even find it. As you can see here in the camera app, pretty much every phone that has an ultra wide camera has either a button right here, or if you just tap this, it should open up, but as you can see, it's not doing anything, so I'm just assuming it's not there. Whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, if we go into the camera, as you can see, we got a 0.5x right here. So yeah, this phone definitely does have an ultra-wide camera, whereas with the BLU F92e 5G, even if the ultra-wide camera is in there somewhere, which I guess it might be, I've checked everything and I couldn't find it myself, but even if it is there, it's definitely not very user-friendly. So if you do want an ultra-wide camera, between the two, I would definitely go with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. And then when it comes to photo quality, on one hand, the F92e 5G does take some really good pictures for what it is. For more casual use, stuff like taking pictures to send to friends and family, maybe Snapchat, or even the occasional Instagram photo every now and then, it will get the job done. And when it comes to photo quality, most people are probably going to be perfectly fine with it. That being said though, on the other hand, the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G does have significantly better photo quality. So if you are using your camera a bit more more often, then this is definitely something to think about. To give you an idea of what they can do, first, here are some pictures taken with the BLU F92e 5G. Overall, again, I definitely do think they are pretty good. I mean, for more basic use, you really don't need to spend a bunch of money on a phone that has a crazy good camera. So in that kind of situation, where you're really not using your camera a whole lot, but you still want to get nice photos from time to time, this phone will be a good choice. And then here's some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. So yeah, definitely much higher quality. And while I don't think this is really necessary for more basic use, if you are more concerned about photo quality and you're taking a lot of pictures, then clearly between the two, the A34 5G will have an advantage. And then for video, it's pretty much the exact same principle. With the BLU F92e 5G, we got a max recording quality of 2K in the rear camera and then 1080p in the front. And with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, we got a max recording quality of 4K in the rear camera and the front camera. So definitely a huge advantage here. Now when it comes to RAM and processor, with the BLU F92e 5G, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G, this phone has 6GB of RAM with the Exynos 1080 processor. So in general, this is probably not a huge surprise, but the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G is quite a bit faster, and it is actually a pretty noticeable difference. So if you're going to be on your phone a lot, especially doing maybe a little bit more demanding activities like mobile gaming, for example, the A34 5G will give you a much nicer experience. Whereas with the BLU F92e 5G, while it is going to struggle if you're really using your phone all the time and doing more demanding activities, for more basic stuff like light web browsing, social media use, and watching the occasional video every now and then, stuff like that. As long as you're not using your phone all the time, it still will be at least okay. Now I did run a benchmark test on each phone using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So as you can see here, definitely quite a difference, with the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G being significantly faster. So again, if you really are looking for a phone that has noticeably good performance, I would definitely go with the A34 5G. But on the other hand, if you're maybe looking for a more affordable phone for more basic activities and you're really just not a heavy user, then keep in mind, despite not being nearly as fast, the BLU F92e 5G is still going to be perfectly fine for more normal daily activities. Now when it comes to the battery, both phones are getting 5000 mAh batteries, with the BLU F92e 5G supporting 10W fast charging and the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G supporting 25. So definitely a difference in charging speed. If that is important to you, then keep in mind the A34 5G will be quite a bit better. But at the same time, the BLU F92e 5G still does charge up decently well. So if you're not too concerned about the charging speed, then that probably won't be a big deal. But as far as the battery size goes, they are the same. And with 5000 mAh batteries, with these two phones, you can definitely expect to get some great battery life. And then down the road, as the batteries degrade, which of course all batteries do, compared to a much smaller battery like a 3000 mAh battery, the batteries in these phones are going to last quite a bit longer. So if you like to get one phone and keep it for a longer time without replacing it, for that, either phone is going to be a great choice. Now for the software, with the BLU F92e 5G, this phone does have Android 12, which is kind of too bad at this point. I mean, sure, a lot of phones in this price range only have Android 12 too, so it's not anything unique, but at the same time, it definitely would have been nice in 2023 to see a phone like this that's decently newer, having the latest version of Android. And keep in mind, knowing BLU's software support, I'm really not counting on this phone ever getting Android 13. So if you do get this phone, just keep that in mind. But with the A34 5G, this phone does come with Android 13, and knowing Samsung software support, you can also expect several other major updates in the future. I believe it's going to be getting Android 14, 15, 16, and 17, so yeah, definitely great software support here. So if that is important to you, then hands down, the A34 5G will obviously be a much better choice. Another thing to keep in mind here is that on one hand, the BLU F92e 5G does not have NFC, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G does. So with this phone, you can use tap and pay. Definitely keep that in mind. But on the other hand, unfortunately, the A34 5G does not have a headphone jack, whereas the BLU F92e 5G does. So if you like to use wired headphones, then keep that in mind as well. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? In general, in almost every way. In fact, I want to say actually every way for that matter. The Samsung Galaxy A34 5G is a much better device. With the A34 5G, the image quality on the display is quite a bit better. So if you're consuming a lot of content, especially stuff like videos for example, you will get a much better experience here. It also has a better camera that can not only record 4K videos, but also takes better pictures and has an ultra-wide camera. It has significantly better performance, better fast charging, a newer software with better software support. It does have NFC, and in general, the phone just looks and feels quite a bit more premium. On the other hand though, the BLU F92e 5G is really not a bad phone for what it is, and I mean, sure it's not the fastest phone out there, but it does get the job done for more basic activities. The camera is at least decent, it has plenty of storage, it has a great battery, and again, it does have a headphone jack, whereas for whatever reason, the A34 5G doesn't. So at the end of the day, if you're really just looking for a super basic device that's really affordable, and you're really only doing basic activities like web browsing, social media, maybe watching a couple videos every now and then, but you're really not going to be on your phone a whole lot, apply. For that kind of situation, the BLU F92e 5G is going to be perfectly fine. But if you do really want to maximize the value and features you get for the money, then the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G will be a much better choice. But this concludes my comparison between the BLU F92e 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A34 5G. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipa's Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.